Well, we're following a market that is at record highs right now. Bryn, I'll come back to you, and forgive me for interrupting you earlier, but there's a belief, too, that there are not 100% believers in this market yet, and there's a lot of money on the sideline that is going to see what's happening on days like today, whether it's fear of missing out or just want a piece of the action, and money's going to come in. I want you to hear what Rick Reeder told us yesterday on Closing Bell and have your reaction to it on the other side.
You look at the amount of cash that's sitting out there, we were looking at the total net worth of the size of the fixed income market, size of the equity market. Globally, there is so much money that wants to come into the market that didn't for a while. And I just think if you don't have any negative news, the natural gravitational pull is across all these assets.
What do you think about what Rick Reeder had to say?
Yeah, well, I think, when we see the cash on the sidelines, we've actually researched this. The cash on the sidelines has actually never come off the sidelines, so I don't think that's a catalyst. I do think, though, as the market has made, the NASDAQ and the S&P made these highs, I think the only people that bought the dip were mainly the retail investors. And so I think that people who were calling for recession, people that were panicking from an institutional perspective, are still very underweight this, right? Because remember, technology was dead just 2 months ago, and now we're seeing NVIDIA break out to all-time highs. And I do think, NVIDIA, which is close to 7.5% of the S&P and 9% of the NASDAQ, this is incredibly bullish that after a year of consolidation, now the largest company in both indexes continues to make new highs every day. I think that's going to continue to gravitate people into tech. But I still do believe, though, as I was talking about earlier, there is this FOMO underneath the market in these small and I'd say mid-cap tech stocks that have really, to me, a lot of them have gone parabolic.
Yeah, if you look at, for example, high beta, Brian, those names are flying, the more volatile names within the market. That some are flagging, the ETF that tracks that space is at a new high. Some would suggest lower quality names like Bryn is alluding to there. If you go to the momentum names, the momentum ETF is at a record high as well. The gains from the April low are extraordinary for the Palantirs of the world, 88%. Nobody's suggesting that these companies are, lower in quality, obviously, but look at the moves. They're just straight parabolic. 88 for NRG and 86 for Vistra and 76 for Vernova and 73 for Broadcom. Some of the cruise lines, industrials. What do we think about that?
Well, I think it's part and parcel of what we talked about in terms of the broadening out, number one. Number two, I think why we are positioned for financial sector earnings to be just lights out for the second quarter, Scott, because what does volatility mean for financials? It means that the capital markets business are doing a lot of trading, and the wealth businesses, and Bryn absolutely nailed it. The private wealth people got this right. They've been investing all along and allocating to stocks. So I think financials are set up because of all this trading volume. But look at that list of stocks. We're not talking about the Mag 7 there. We're talking, aside from Broadcom, technically. But at the end of the day, we're starting to see a more broadening out in technology, and that actually has been our call all along for the year. So we think this is very healthy for the market, not just all about momentum.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Robinhood kind of market. Target goes to 96 from 64. 96 from 64. Show the stock, guys, please. Reiterated buy at Compass Point. There it is. I mean, it's blown past 64, so you just chase it up to 96. Kev, that's a name that you've owned.
Yeah, both Bryn and I have Robinhood. This is a stock that I just can't stop falling in love with. Everything that they're doing is amazing. The amount of users is going up daily. The AUM is incredible. And when you think about this stock longer term, not as a meme trade or someone playing on their phones looking at crypto, this is an infrastructure for the wealth generation of the next multiple decades.
Bryn, it's a Roblox kind of market. Seven straight winning weeks, up 11 out of 12 weeks, up 58% in the last couple of months, and you sold it.
Yeah, we've been talking about this name. I've owned it for about 2.5 years, maybe a little bit longer. And I think that this is an important conversation. It's easy to buy a stock. You're going to have your reasons, but when do you sell? And so what I like to do is re-underwrite my names pretty frequently, but especially after a big move like this. I love the team at Roblox, et cetera, et cetera. But I really feel like the stock growth and the financial growth have gotten dislocated. And so whereas the stock is up, to your point, year to date 50%, over the last 1 year, about 180%, the revenues are only growing about 25%. There's no E in the name. And so this is where one of those names that I just think that I've had a great run. I don't fall in love with stocks. And in fact, I know the data that over very long periods of time, over 50% of stocks don't even outperform a 90-day T-bill. So I thought it was time to move on. I think the stock is ahead of itself. And so we move on and find other names that I feel are undervalued.
Steph, it's a quanta services market, up 54% from the April low. It's a GE Vernova, as we said, market, up 76% from the low. It's an Eaton market, up 41% from the low.
I have a basket, as you know, but they've all really...
You know what? A lot of people have baskets now of these kinds of stocks because so many stocks have parabolic moves like the ones that I've documented.
Because it's all about, it is AI. It's an AI play. AI, data center, grid, and then power. And we have 1.7 trillion mega projects out there, and only 16% have been completed. And I am a firm believer that we are going to see 4 trillion plus in spend on electrification between now and 2050. That's a long ways to go, but it's such a momentum and a tailwind for these companies. And they have record orders, record backlogs, margins are going higher. And I just think this is a different way of playing that NVIDIA theme. And you know I own Broadcom, but this is a different way of playing the AI space.
It's, Brian, a financials market. That sector hitting a record high today, on track for the second positive month in a row. Month to date, just month to date, right? We're 3 weeks in. Goldman's up 14.5%. Citi's up 12%. You have that. You have JP Morgan, which has been at a record high. That's up 9.5%. B of A and Wells on that list too, 7.5% and 7% respectively.
Yeah, we own all of them for very different reasons. But again, I think it's going to be a bang on and very surprising second quarter earnings period, Scott. But also, as mentioned earlier, about climbing the wall of worry. Man, from the institutional perspective, my institutional accounts around the world have been underweight financials in the U.S. They have not participated. So going back to your original theme that we talked about at the top of the show in terms of fear of missing out, I think there's going to be an increasingly fear of missing out trade in financials, especially when they react to the earnings that I think are going to be absolutely stellar.
Yeah, and they're coming really soon, too. You've seen it in some of the private equity names as well, which have really picked up lately on this optimism about the market, whether it's IPOs, M&A, and maybe, just maybe, a piece of animal spirits coming in the second half of the year, too.